Welcome back into our Huskers Radio Network podcast. We're continuing our Title IX podcast series as we celebrate excellence in women's athletics for 50 years of Title IX. I'm Jessica Coody and got a fun guest lined up today, Meghan Straub, and a lot of different angles to get to with Meghan. She was a student athlete here and now works in the athletics department. And when we have interviews that come in for Sports Nightly or on our podcast, she's part of the team that help us line up people to get down here. Meghan, how's it going?
Going well. How about you?
Good. Well, you just heard me talk about Title IX, and we've had a year-long celebration. We're about halfway through it. What's it been like being a part of it, seeing it kind of unfold the way that it has?
No, I think it's awesome. There's a lot of great women and men, too, that are working hard to set up events and different things that we have going on at home games and on social media and on our website. And it's been awesome just to see all those creative things that have been coming out.
Well, before you got here and were working for the athletics department, you were a student athlete. You were part of the Powerhouse Bowling program.
Yes.
And your dad is Bill and was just inducted into the Nebraska Hall of Fame in the fall. But how did it all start? Was there any choice? Were you going to bowl?
Well, the journey was kind of interesting. I grew up around the program my whole life. I started bowling when I was 2. Everybody on the team were like my big sisters. I was an only child, so it was just nice having that connection with all these college girls that would babysit me and just hang out with me, take me to do fun things. I like to bowl. I bowled because I didn't want to embarrass my parents when someone asked me to throw a couple shots, but I liked volleyball more.
Really?
So I played volleyball all through middle school and through high school, and I was looking at schools to go and play, and I had a couple offers on the East Coast, and I was still kind of deciding what I wanted to do between my junior and senior year. And I ended up tearing my Achilles when I was playing a club volleyball tournament. It was very painful. It felt like someone had shot the back of my calf, and the tendon just rolled up my leg, and there was a ball in my Achilles tendon. It was crazy.
Easy chills.
Yeah, so I had surgery, came back home, had surgery, and I wanted to get back in and play volleyball again, but I just didn't feel the same. I was concerned about something happening again, and I just didn't really know. And my dad said, well, this was before my senior year of high school. He was like, let's try it out. Let's see how you do bowling. We'll really make sure you're putting in the hours every week like you were for volleyball, and let's see what happens. And thankfully, I ended up getting better, and I was good enough to walk on the team. And I was like, yeah, that's great. I might as well do it. I wanted to be an athlete anyways, and it just worked out. And then I had a great time. My 4 years here were awesome. I got better every year, which was great, and it really was just a very fulfilling experience that I was glad everything turned out the way that it did. I saw my life differently than it ended up, but it's been great.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what was your perspective? I know it wasn't necessarily that was going to be your first choice as a sport in college, but as someone that was so close to the program, watching the program be what it was, and to be one that was competing for national titles and winning national titles, and again with Title IX, and that's what we're talking about here, just to have that perspective as a daughter of a dad that's built a program and the emphasis that was placed on bowling.
Yeah, I was blessed to be a part of something like that, and when I thought about it, I wasn't good enough at volleyball to be on this stage in volleyball, so it was just such an awesome experience to be on the best team in the country, and being somebody that probably, shouldn't have been recruited during high school to bowl, but it just worked out, and it was just an awesome experience, and just being able to be around a lot of other bowling programs and coaches that look to us as the vision that they want their program to be was really cool too.
So did you just live at the alley? How did you get good? How did you get to where you could compete and contribute?
I put the hours in, and I really believed what my dad and Coach Klempa taught me, and I didn't have anything else to go off of. A lot of times there's bowlers that come to the program that have their own personal coaches and a whole experience growing up that's different than what it is here, but I didn't have that because it was all the same. So it was really easy for me just to immediately do whatever they asked me to do, and like I said, I trusted it, and it worked out. I put the hours in, and it turned out good.
For people that just, just go to hang out at the bowling alley, what goes into developing yourself as an athlete to where, is it something where, do you watch film? Do you know, okay, this is, in this certain instance, I'm doing this? How do you continue to improve and get better?
So we do watch film, but it's not of opponents like most people do. This is the camera behind you, and you're analyzing everything, and we teach walk straight, swing straight, follow through straight. So it's your idea that you're going to start someplace and end up at the same spot. You're going to have your elbow in, you're going to follow through straight. So all of those things can be analyzed by video, and in order to get all those things correct, we do different drills. So if you normally have a 5-step approach, then we'll do a 1-step approach and a 3-step approach to try to get those things in line. So when you add more to your game, you still have those fundamentals down.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
When Coach Straub was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he had the biggest, I think, crowd out there celebrating him, and it was loud. They were all cheering for him. And he wouldn't, I think I asked him something about how he built the program, and he was very humble about it and just saying that's kind of what he did. But in your perspective, how was he able to build and make this the powerhouse that it is?
He's a great coach and teacher. I think that would apply to any sport, not just for bowling. And he knew how to adapt his coaching and teaching styles to all the different athletes that he had. And he learned a lot as well because he started off with both the men's and women's team, so that was a whole nother challenge. And then when he went to just the women's team, he used a lot of those things that he had taught the men, and also just learning when watching other really good coaches that are coaching basketball or football, because it all really can apply to the same thing. He made a lot of connections with golf because that's something that's a little bit more prominent now and people can connect with a little easier. So you see a lot of people have a same type of golf swing. That's the same kind of thing with bowling. The ideal swing should look very similar for everybody. So he was just always learning and always interested in hearing the perspective of the athletes on the team and what they believed, and had a lot of good debates sometimes, but discussions about what should be happening and why they believe what they do and why he coaches what he does.
I'm taking notes on how I can improve, right? I've talked to a couple of athletes that said, hey, if you want to bowl, I mean, this is where you want to be. Kind of like volleyball, right? I mean, it's that program. So what's it like when you come to compete here, that pressure that, hey, you're expected to go compete for a national title every year?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't really think about it too much, but I do think that sometimes it slips into our minds that we have something that we want to maintain every year. But we have such a great support system here, and it just feels like that's the expectation, but it's not really a weight on our shoulders. It's just what we expect to do every year, and thankfully it works out most years.
How much do you appreciate, too, I mean, because, again, going back to Title IX, and this is a program that's here because Title IX and providing opportunities and all that there was an opportunity for you to be a student athlete, to be a part of the program here? Yeah,
we got really lucky. I know my dad worked really closely with Bill Byrne, the past athletic director here, and he believed in having bowling here and thought that it was going to be something that didn't only help with Title IX, but it also is going to be something that's successful and could get national championships for the school.
So last year, I was on TV for the first time, Big Ten Network, and they said the ratings were awesome, and Big Ten folks loved having it on, and they want to try to do it again. How cool was that for you to see, as someone in the athletics department, someone that was an athlete here, to see your sport on that stage?
I loved it, and I loved the response that we got too. So the play-by-play guy is Larry Putney, who actually bowled here, and a lot of people didn't know that. They were just surprised at how great the broadcast was, and he's a pro no matter what sport it is, but he actually had a very personal connection. And then my dad was able to do the color, and I know he really loved that. Kind of a funny story, I was working TV, so I was TOC, and they asked me, like,
timeout coordinator, by the way.
Yes, timeout coordinator. So I'm sitting there, and I'm wearing the headset, talking to the guys in the truck. I'm like, hey, could you just tell us what happens each shot? Well, they didn't know. They put me in a spot that I could not see the pins. So I did my best, because if you can listen, a lot of times you can hear what pins were left. So I was trying. My dad's better at that than I was, but like, oh, I think they left one there. Like, well, they got the spare. So I probably didn't do the best job, but it was a really fun experience.
You can hear when people bowl how many pins are left?
Yeah, usually you can. You can hear when you hit the pocket and strike, usually. You can hear if they went a little high, they left one pin. It's a talent, but if you're around a bowling center enough, you can tell what's left.
Wow, we need to make you an analyst, by the way.
Right.
So when people go, because last year when they had fans out there, and I was going to look at the schedule here of what's coming up, but they can come watch, right? And you guys as athletes love that, right?
Yeah, we have a home tournament every year. It's going to be at Hollywood Lanes, and it's really great to have fans out there because there's a lot of places that we go that don't have as many people as they have for our home tournament. So it's great to see our own fans and a lot of support, and it's great.
So you talked about how you started off, you had to change your sport, and you worked really hard to walk on, and by the end you're an All-American. So how rewarding was that by the end when you were one of the best in the country and named an All-American?
It was rewarding. It just kind of happened, really. I didn't think about it too much. Like I said, I made sure every day I was learning something and getting better. And my thought process was how the team was doing and trying to win a national championship for the team. And while I got better trying to achieve that goal, the All-American came with it.
That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah,
Like the individual awards come with the team, right?
Yeah.
What did it mean to you too, and then now being a part of it in a working capacity that, again, there is so much support? Because, I mean, and I've said this so many times, people are probably sick of hearing it, but like it's just not like this everywhere. And especially across the board, the emphasis it's put on all of the women's sports and the fans that show up. And so what has that meant to you in that perspective of seeing this kind of support that is given to the women's athletics programs here? Yeah,
I've seen it every day that I'm working here. My dad had told me that. There are 20 plus years that we have great support. And now that I'm on this side of it, I can see that as well. And we just are really blessed, and it's a lot different compared to other bowling programs throughout. And there are some that are getting to this level, and there's some more Division I, closer to Power 5 schools that are also adding bowling now. But what we receive here is unmatched, and it's really great.
So when your career as an athlete's done, what made you decide to come work here in the communications department?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I student taught at a high school. I was teaching English, and I really liked that side of it. I liked the journalism, working with students with the newspaper. But then I just had this feeling that I wanted to get back into athletics, because once my dad had retired, my connection to it was different. Once I graduated, it wasn't the same. So I got into a master's program with athletic administration, and we were meeting different people in departments. And Jeff Griesch in our department was on a Zoom call, and he spoke to me a little bit through the Zoom call. I'm like, oh, this sounds like funny. It really fit with what I already was doing, teaching students in class and working a little bit journalism. So I reached out to him and I met him in person, and I already knew a little bit about the department, just being an athlete here, but I really got to know everybody there, and I felt like I would really fit in. So I started my graduate assistant position, then I got my degree and graduated, and then now I've continued working with them, and I tell them, as long as you want me, I'm here. So that's my plan for now, and I'm really liking what I'm doing.
Yeah, I brag all the time about how great the support is for women's sports, but the sports information department really here is so good. You guys win the awards every single year, national awards. I mean, you guys are really second to none. You have wrestling and soccer, and literally anytime I need anybody, I'm like, hey, can you get me somebody? And, yep.
Yeah.
But how has that been too, like working with the student athletes from that aspect? And I guess maybe tell a little bit about your job, because there might be somebody listening in that might be interested in sports information too.
Yeah, so I've had to learn a lot, especially with stat keeping. Soccer specifically, it's a pretty big program that you have to track everything that's happening during the game. So that was the biggest learning curve for me. Writing previews of a match or recaps of a game isn't too difficult, because I already had wrote a lot of things and have had a lot of those things happen in my previous experiences. But with wrestling, that was a whole new experience for me, because I've seen it before but didn't follow the scorekeeping at all. So that's been something that I've spent a lot of time on, and thankfully this is my second year doing it. So my first year was a big learning curve, but now I'm feeling more confident with what I know about the sport. And for both of them, the athletes are great and the coaches are really awesome to work with, and I've enjoyed all aspects of it.
You also help manage the In Our Voices, which are, on the website every year it's about every week almost.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of people that are interested in sharing their story, so it's great. We have probably one every 2 weeks.
That's awesome. Months. So, and then you also write and you also pass along stories. So if you have some stories of some athletes that maybe people aren't as familiar with that you think are just really cool, are there any that stick out in your mind? Of any sport?
We've had a couple really awesome ones this year. I'm trying to think, most recently we did the Tommy Armstrong story, which that was already kind of out there on social media, but we just got a little bit more information and more of Jalen's experience of it and her perspective. We have one coming out soon about Darby Thomas. She has a pretty incredible journey in high school. She was a great track star in Iowa, and one of her teammates ended up passing away her freshman year of college when Darby was still in high school, and she was in a car accident, I believe, and then her dad had also passed away when she was in high school. So she uses those two things to inspire her and her track career. But every story that we've done, just been so inspiring, and it's just really fun to get to know athletes in a different way, and it's a story that you wouldn't probably see just by watching them on TV or seeing them out on the field.
Because that's probably kind of being journalism and liking to write, kind of what you like about sports too, right?
Yes, that's definitely the journalism side, finding those stories. It connects with, what I like to do before as well.
Well, I guess, and then what's it been like when you made that transition? I know you were learning a lot, but to get to be back a part of the athletics department team when you were a student athlete and all these people that were doing stuff for you, and then now all of a sudden you're working with them, what that transition was like?
It's definitely a change, but I was telling somebody recently, it feels like I've been a part of Nebraska athletics my whole life, because really in some way I have. So it doesn't really feel much different. I know a lot of the same people, a lot of them have been here. We have a very an old group of people that like to hang around here a while, because once you get here, I think you don't want to go anyplace else. Like, it's just so great to be a part of all of this. So really not much different, but it's just been fun learning all these different things and who I need to talk with for what I'm trying to get done.
I know, obviously, your dad was a big inspiration, but in this Title IX series, I like to ask every woman that comes and sits in the seat about a woman who was a woman that inspired you in your journey, whether, career or as an athlete, and do you have one of those?
I haven't really talked about my mom so far in this, but she bowled here as well, and she bowled for my dad in the late 80s to early 90s. And she was a Player of the Year and All-American, and she helped me a lot on my journey as well, obviously through life, but through volleyball, through bowling, and anything that I'm doing. So she would be my top female athlete here, and just an inspiration for me in my life.
Did you have, other than your mom, did you have a favorite that was one of your dad's athletes?
I can't say one specifically. No, there's been a lot of awesome ladies throughout the years, and I can't pick just one.
Yeah.
We've had lots of really good teams.
How did you handle that pressure? I mean, you said you didn't want to embarrass them, so you bowled, but and then when you start bowling, was that ever in your mind? Or I'm sure they did a good job of not making you feel like you had to be them, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand. I would say my first couple of years, there was a couple times where in my head I was questioning myself and questioning my abilities, and should I really be playing out here? And I never heard anything from any other teams to say, oh, she's just playing because she's the coach's daughter. But that's still something that kind of comes up every once in a while, especially if I wasn't doing very well and had stayed in a game when he could have potentially taken me out but kept me in, those types of things. But that didn't last for very long. I mean, like I said, my dad, Coach Klumpa, they made sure that wasn't an issue very early on, and they didn't want that to affect how I performed. So when I started feeling that way, it didn't last very long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If there's a athlete that's listening in that maybe they wanted to play volleyball in college, and there's something that derailed that plan, and what you said, you had a plan planned out, but they still want to play something in college, what would be your advice?
I think there's a lot of obscure sports out there that offer scholarships, and a lot of colleges throughout have those. They offer that sport. So I think just do your research and kind of see what's out there, because there's a lot of different avenues to become an athlete in college, and there's a lot of sports that there's not too many athletes that play them, and it's very specific. But if you're good at it, you can find a way to get your schooling paid for and have some great benefits of being a student athlete.
All right, Meghan Straub, appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank
fascinating. You. I mean, I could keep asking you questions, but that's awesome. And probably if anybody hits us up tonight and needs any bowling tips, I'll maybe let you call in.
Sounds good. You let me know.
Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you.